So we're going to turn now to the next panel on HCI and health, the future of health and well-being, which is moderated by Aditi Risbud Bartl from UC Davis. Aditi is the Executive Director of Communications and Strategic Priorities at the UC Davis College of Engineering. Over to you, Aditi.
All right, good morning, everyone. Great to see you all here. And it's wonderful to be part of this amazing group of women sharing their work in human-computer interaction today. As Camille mentioned, my name is Aditi Risbud Bartl, and I'll be moderating a panel today on health and human-computer interaction. And I'll be joined by my fellow panelists, Kathy Kim, who's Associate Professor of Nursing at UC Davis, Katya Fabiola Canepa Vega, who is an Assistant Professor of Design at UC Davis, and Stacy Hecht, who is joining us from Fitbit, where she's a UX researcher. And so we'll take a couple of minutes to introduce ourselves, and then we'll dive right in. We'll be talking about wearable technologies and access to these devices in underserved populations, managing and protecting health data, and just our experiences as women of color in technology. So Stacy, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, my internet crashed, so I'm calling in from my phone. Gotta love technology. But anyway, hi, I'm Stacy Hecht. And I work at Fitbit. I've been there for about a year and a half now. But previous to Fitbit, in my past life, I actually have a background in anthropology. So I went to school for cultural anthropology, and my methodologies are sort of grounded in a ethnographic format. And so when I went from academia into the private sector, I was looking for ways in which I could apply sort of the anthropological background that I had, to a non-academic setting. And along the way, I discovered user experience research. And so for the last few years, I've really been sort of finding my feet, first starting in market research and then moving into user experience research at Fitbit. It's been a really interesting but also extremely exciting journey, and I'm just so happy that you all have invited me here to speak today. Sorry I can't see anyone, but I am here.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. And yeah, so I'll introduce myself quickly. I am the Executive Director of Communications and Strategic Priorities in the College of Engineering. I'm a PhD engineer turned science communicator, so I love the interface of different kinds of science and technology and how it impacts society. So really excited to participate in this panel today. I think one of the things that I can do in my role is really help lift up different voices in engineering and science, and I try to make a very strong effort to do that in my role here at Davis. I'm really inspired by the women I've already heard from today and that we get to hear from throughout the day, and look forward to the discussion. So Kathy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Aditi. I'm Kathy Kim from UC Davis, and I am a health informatics researcher. So I really look at how technology can be used to support the collaboration of patients and family members and other community members with healthcare teams so that they can improve individual health, but also so we can apply this to improve entire populations' health. I come to technology from the healthcare domain. So I was working as a clinic manager, as a medical group manager, so really in healthcare operations, and then had an opportunity to conceptualize a system that would help us be more efficient in the medical group that I was working in. And I wrote this completely naive idea up that said, couldn't we use the internet? This is back in 1999. Couldn't we use the internet to improve our efficiency? And they said, well, how would we do that? So we just dreamed this up. And I was given an opportunity to actually build that, coming from no technology background. So we connected with a technology company in Silicon Valley and built one of the first processing systems using the internet as the vehicle. And that started my journey in using technology to solve the problems of collaboration in healthcare. So I'm really pleased to be on this panel, to be able to share some of the experiences since then with this group.
Thank you, Kathy. And Katia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Katya Vega. I am an assistant professor at the Department of Design at UC Davis too. And I'm excited to be here to share with you some of the projects I was creating. I direct the Interactive Organisms Labs at the Department of Design, and we create interfaces. I'm also in the HCI community and in this field that could be on your body or sometimes in your body. So I'll be talking about that in a little bit. So how we could have these 2 meters of skin that we have that could be interactive. So you could imagine that you could blink and turn the lights, or you could paint a metro with your fingernail, or having tattoos that change colors. So it's kind of reimagining the way that we could see beauty products and the way that we also see body modification technologies or techniques. And a little of my background, I'm from Peru. I did my undergrad in computer science in San Marcos. I went to Brazil to do my master and my PhD. During my PhD, I went for 1 year to the School of Arts in Hong Kong. That was kind of very different, I guess, from many computer scientists, but it gave me a lot of perspective of how we could also integrate art into technology. And after that, I did a postdoc at MIT Media Lab. So yeah, I'm very excited to be over here and discuss more with this amazing woman in this panel.
Great, thank you, Katia. So let's dive right in. So the first question I had for you all is around wearable technology. So we know wearable technology is very pervasive in our culture, and it's often framed with a health lens to promote healthy behaviors. Could each of you share your perspectives on how this technology could change behavior or promote healthy behavior? And then maybe as a corollary, like how can we better reach underserved populations, and what is our role in ensuring that these populations gain access to wearables, apps, and other technology in an equitable fashion? So Kathy, could you kick us off?
It will be my pleasure. So I think the role of technology in changing behavior, we've learned a lot about this in the last 15, 20 years, that technology alone can change behavior, but when you're talking about health behaviors, that you don't want to sort of take the view that if I just throw a technology at people, it will somehow magically change the behavior in a positive direction in what I'm trying to accomplish. Right. So in early work, this is now over a decade ago, when we started using mobile apps to try and change lifestyle behaviors, nutrition, physical activity, those kinds of things. What we discovered, even in those early years, was that when you use self-tracking applications, what it did was raise people's awareness of what their behaviors were. It didn't necessarily change them. So that's only one step in the behavior change cycle, right? And so we did one little thing. Now, if you really want to get the positive behavior change, you have to incorporate the other disciplines, psychology, right? Health education, technology adoption, user interface design. You have to start to incorporate all these other disciplines to make the change in the positive direction. So we have learned a lot about that. I will say for underserved populations, it's not enough to say, we've got this great mobile app, we've got this great social networking technology, we have this great wearable device. If we can just get them to use it somehow, it will all work. There are so many infrastructural barriers to people in underserved populations: the cost of the device, the availability of any kind of broadband access for them to use your device, the digital literacy, the health literacy. There are all these sort of infrastructure challenges that we also need to address in order to now put a behavior change technology intervention on top of that infrastructure. So we've got a lot of work to do in terms of the infrastructure as well.
Thanks, Kathy. Stacy, what are your thoughts from the Fitbit perspective?
Yeah, I think Kathy just made a bunch of great points. And for us, we are a behavior change company. And so at the heart of everything we do, we're trying to understand those expectations and gray areas or unmet needs at any stage of the health and wellness journey. But to Kathy's point, you can't just provide somebody with tech and then assume that, okay, yes, they're going to change their life. They're going to go couch to 5K. There's so much more that goes into that. And it's my job to sort of understand what else needs to be a part of that entire framework. And then to speak on accessibility, Kathy, again, made a great point. We don't want to price our customers out of an experience, because at the end of the day, not everyone has $400, $500, $600 to spend on a smartwatch. So we try to be really mindful of our price points and offer a broad range of devices and services to, meet that mission of making everyone in the world healthier. But we have such a long way to go, and we're constantly thinking of ways to improve our experience based on research so that we can understand the ways that our devices and services operate across socioeconomic platforms, across populations, across different subgroups, so that we can become more equitable with our devices and services.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. So the next question is more around health data. So, we've discussed some of the benefits and possibilities of wearables, but there also comes with that this responsibility associated with collecting, managing, and protecting health data. What, you each have a different perspective on this. What are your thoughts on data privacy, device design, and either establishing or perhaps building trust in collecting data among different populations? Katia, maybe you can start with the device design and how you approach that.
Sure. Well, at least for us, when we design this kind of devices, and I don't know if this is a time for sharing the screen. Yeah, so as I was mentioning before, we design different devices that could be on the body. And with that, you need to understand different aspects and different factors that when you are actually wearing on the top of your skin some devices. And that comes not just with the safety issues, but also with privacy issues. And let me just share, talk on the top of some videos that I was creating before. First, I was creating this whole concept called beauty technology. That is a way that we could have technology on our skin. So like makeup, like eyelashes that you could blink and turn the lights, or this project that is Kinesis that could understand facial movements. So with a smile or with blinking, you could turn on lights. Or fingernails, again, that you could open the door of your office, or even you could also think of your hair. So what it means when you touch your hair and you could send a message to the police, for example, asking for help. But in the same way that we could have, for example, this project that is a hair extension that looks like your hair, and touching your hair is also kind of like an invisible gesture or for activating a device, we still need to think about privacy issues of that meaning of just touching your hair for sending a message, because you could record a conversation without asking permission for anyone, or you could also send a message to someone else without also requesting that. And the other project in terms of privacy that I would like to share is this project called the Dermal Abyss. That is how we could have tattoos that they change color in reacting with your biodata. So we developed these inks that they react and change its color. So with your different levels of pH, sodium and glucose. So you could imagine, for example, someone that has diabetes, their glucose levels go up and down. They could see in their tattoo how it's changing its color. And in this way, it also makes us think, oh, okay, this is amazing. I could have access to information I never had access before, that is information of my body. But also, it's in a tattoo that is exposed, and you could see those changes. So it's not just for you, it could be also for other people. And when your biodata is exposed, it will be also a lot of information of yourself that is exposed. So that's, I want you to also reflect in the meaning of sharing that information and how you could encrypt information that in this case, it could be also in a tattoo with different kind of creams or different ways. So you could just read information whenever you want it. And this is something small, but I was just gonna share for you to start reflecting on that.
That's great. Thank you, Katia. It's such a fascinating set of technologies. So thanks for sharing that. Stacy, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, privacy isn't necessarily a particular area of expertise for me, but we do know that trust is paramount for our users and for us as a company. So it's certainly a core tenet of what we do and how we operate, because at the end of the day, if users don't trust you, they're not going to use your products. And so with this, just as with this understanding of expectations and unmet needs, it's crucial for us to also layer in expectations surrounding privacy and protection of sensitive data for our users. And I mean, I'm also a user, right? So I want to know that my data and information is secure, and I want to believe in the products and the services that we are, putting out into the world. And if I don't think my information is safe, I'm certainly not going to put it, a device on my wrist. And so we're constantly, thinking of ways that we can sort of up our game with protecting especially sensitive health data as we move into a more advanced health sort of territory. So lots of great things that we're working on that I can't quite talk about today, but just know that it is certainly central to our company's initiatives.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. And Kathy, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to put this in context of a current study that we're doing. It's called Activate, and it's actually a CITRIS collaborative project with UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Merced, and community health centers in the Central Valley, Livingston Community Health. So in this project, we're implementing a full telehealth and digital health program to help rural community health centers to interact with their patients where the patients are at home, right? So it's sort of clinic to home telehealth. We're giving out remote patient monitoring devices. We're supporting access to broadband in the home. We're providing digital literacy education. We're also integrating the data that comes from remote patient monitoring into our platform and into the electronic health records at the clinic. And that way patients and their family members can really collaborate with their providers at the clinic. So now we're talking about bringing a whole set of different innovations, new innovations to this community that has really not had access to most of this. And so you think about trust, not just from the data, but trust from what is this platform? And now you're in my home and giving me these devices. Who's seeing this? Can people see me now in my house? Where's this information going? How is it going to be used? How do I know that it's really going to help me, right? And so the start of trust is you build on the relationships that are already there in the community. The reason we decided to go with community health centers first, rather than us at the UCs kind of jumping into a community and say, we've got the right thing for you, is to leverage the trust that rural patients have with the providers in their local clinic. So we had to convince the local clinic that this was something trustworthy and that we would provide, something to them that was valuable and that we would safeguard the data that they have first. So it's a whole cycle of trust and a whole cycle of relationships. I think that this is a very kind of complex sort of topic where there aren't a lot of standards, especially for mobile devices. And for monitoring devices, not all of, some of them are fitness devices and some of them are FDA approved devices. So different levels of standards and requirements about how data is handled there. So there's not like a set of standards that we can just point to and say, oh, if it fulfills this trust standard, then you guys are going to be safe, right? In fact, it's kind of a whole portfolio of regulations, laws, standards, requirements that we have to bring together to compile to say this is how we're trying to safeguard at every step of this process. And from initially even rolling this out and telling people this is a good program to be part of, all the way through safeguarding the data as it moves from device over the internet, into our platform and into a clinic that where they have to, actually make healthcare decisions based on this. So we have a lot of, I think, work to do in developing the right approaches to trust, including privacy and security, and in rolling programs out that allow underserved communities to trust the objective or purpose of those programs.
That's great. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that. Yeah, and that's a really great point about like meeting people where they are, and I appreciate that. Thank you. So just to kind of zoom out a little bit, the symposium is really, we've talked about women in technology and really increasing our success and persistence in tech fields. And on this panel, we all are women of color in technology. And I'd love to hear your experiences as women of color in technology and what, for the folks just starting out in their career, students that are in the audience, what advice or insight would you give others looking to become leaders in this space and find success? And, could you share a little bit about your personal journey in that as well? So Stacie, would you like to start with that one?
Sure. Yeah, I think especially shifting from academia to the private sector, there is such a learning curve, and there is this sort of pressure that I think a lot of women, especially women of color, we place on ourselves to just hit the ground running and to try and prove ourselves, because you grow up with this notion that you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And I think that when that is so deeply ingrained in you, it can kind of become difficult to move past that mindset. But then once I sort of stepped into the tech industry, I realized there are so many other people who don't identify as male who are going through that same exact sort of process. And it's often shown in imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is very real and everyone has it. Just this idea of, I don't belong here. Why was I chosen? I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. And the thing is, so many people are feeling that. And what I had to sort of take a step back and remember is that, okay, I have a cultural anthropology background. I'm trying to go into UX research. I don't know anything about the jargon, the lingo. I am not tech savvy, but I remembered being told by one of my mentors, you're being hired for your skill set and your potential growth in a role. No one is expecting you to be an expert from the jump, especially if you're coming from a different field. And I felt that so strongly as an anthropologist going into the tech industry. And then as a woman of color, there's just that added layer of complexity that we're all too familiar with, that we must navigate, shifting our tone and shifting the ways in which we address certain people. And, I've started to see, especially in the last year, a real shift in that mindset. And there's sort of this space now that's being created by women, and especially by women of color, where we aren't dulling ourselves anymore to let others shine. We are capable, we are strong, we are smart, and we have been placed in these positions because we are worthy of being in that position. And so that's something I think it's just so important to keep in mind as you especially get started in your career, and especially if you're shifting careers, to know that no one is expecting you to be this perfect person right out of the gate, and also to lean on other women and lean on others who don't identify as male, because you can learn so much from each other when navigating these new territories.
Great point, Stacie. Thank you for sharing the importance of mentorship and the imposter syndrome that many of us face every day. So thanks for sharing that. Katia, would you like to share your experiences?
Yes, sure. And I cannot agree more with Stacie in the way that you could also be part of other kind of communities in different ways. And I just want to share that for me, I'm part of computer science, and even that I'm now in the School of Design. But I would like to mention that what the things I was doing was maybe something that territories that were not explored, that it's makeup or tattoos. And one of my recommendations will be to try to find something that you are totally passionate about and that you really would like to create. Because when we go to a field that it's dominated by men, and we are always trying to follow up what was created over there, and we don't have that kind of independence maybe of creation, because we are trying to be part of that community, and that's very important. But you could sometimes fall lose a little bit of your passion. So at least in my case, that I was right now creating technology for women and by women, I feel like it kind of give me that possibility to expand to other areas that no one was created before, still using technology, still using different kind of algorithms, and also proving that in different peer review conferences. But right now, like with my own passion. So my main recommendation will be always to follow what you really would love to do every day. And just for mentioning, there is still open some some not positions, but you could apply to the design departments if you want to be involved with these. And they're all open until May 1st. You could go to UC Davis to the design department. And I also part of the graduate group in computer science, so you want to also be involved. Well, the deadline for that is usually December. So I would love to see you over there too.
Great. Thank you so much, Katia. I appreciate that. And yeah, I love the thought about following your passion that really gets you through the challenging times. So thank you. And then Kathy, would you like to share your thoughts to wrap us up?
Yeah, so I will start with some negative examples and then hopefully end on the positive. So I will say, I feel like I've been in many situations at different phases of my career where I was told that I didn't belong. So I started out as a clinic manager, and when I applied to my master's program, I went to the MBA MPH program. I was told by, I think, a well-meaning man who said, and I had a 6-month-old baby when I started the program, a well-meaning senior member of the school who said, you know, you're probably going to fail out because you have this other burden, you have this baby you have to take care of. And so I would just say, keep your head down and just try not to fail. And then I, skip forward a number of years, I actually became an entrepreneur, and I started a company, and I was seeking venture funding. And I recall being in all of these pitches and meeting with VCs. And one VC who actually ended up giving us an offer said to me afterwards, you know, you always let your team answer first. You're not the first person to answer my questions. So I don't know about your leadership skills. Why do you let other people give the answers? Fast forward now to academia, where it is really seen as a field that is kind of, higher education now, PhDs and MDs and graduate, advanced practice nursing. They're very welcoming, and we see sort of equivalent, numbers of men and women in senior positions. And so it's an equalizer. However, we still don't see the women at the upper echelons in senior leadership positions. And so we still have a lot of work to do in all of these areas. But this is, I think there were two things that kind of got me through at those 3 stages that I think really got me through, the feeling that I didn't belong, and that I couldn't contribute in the way that I wanted to. And those 2 things were actually the mentorship. And I will say in each of those phases, I had 1 or 2 mentors who said, don't listen to that message. And they were both men and women. Do not listen to that message. The second thing that I learned from those mentors were, if the path is not clear or you don't fit the path, you just forge ahead and you'll open up the path. And that's what I tried to do, is to not listen to it and just keep going for what I thought was the right thing to do. And hopefully the path would open up. And in each of those phases of my career, the path did open up. I will say one thing, because this is women in technology, that you can go into technology from any area. I did not start out in technology. I was a clinic manager. I didn't know anything about, product development. I wasn't a programmer. I was not an engineer. And the opportunities opened up for me to contribute my healthcare knowledge. And that is how I became an entrepreneur. So it doesn't mean that you have to, come from only one place to contribute to this field. You can come from many places. So I hope that's something that people from the audience can take away.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. That concludes our panel. Thank you all for your wonderful insight today and discussion, and we'll be available later during the networking session to answer any questions. So thank you all for your time.